Friday the 13th. The gruesome Blackwood cabin. In the small, isolated town of Blackwood, a heavy mist hung in the air as night fell on Friday the 13th. The townsfolk had always been superstitious, but this particular Friday seemed to carry an eerie weight, as if the air itself was thick with an impending sense of doom. As the clock struck midnight, a group of friends gathered at an old, run-down cabin nestled deep in the heart of the nearby woods. Unbeknownst to them, the cabin had a dark history. Legend had it that it was once inhabited by a deranged serial killer named Jacob Voorhees, who brutally murdered anyone who dared to step foot inside. The friends, a mix of adventurous teenagers and thrill-seekers, laughed and joked, oblivious to the horrors that lurked around them. Unfazed by the warnings of the townsfolk, they dismissed the old tales as mere superstition and continued their merrymaking. As the night wore on, strange things began to happen. Shadows danced on the walls and whispers echoed through the cabin. One by one, the friends started to disappear, leaving behind only traces of bloodstains and chilling silence. Alyssa, a brave young woman with a penchant for the supernatural, sensed that something was terribly wrong. She decided to investigate, armed with only a flickering flashlight and her unwavering determination. The others, paralyzed by fear, watched as she ventured into the darkness alone. Creeping through the cabin, Alyssa discovered a hidden room in the basement, adorned with macabre decorations and eerie symbols. In the center of the room, a blood-stained altar stood, surrounded by flickering candles. It was then that she realized they had unwittingly stumbled upon a sacrificial site, a place where a sinister cult had been performing dark rituals to summon a malevolent entity. Suddenly, the door slammed shut, trapping Alyssa inside. The room seemed to come alive with malevolent energy as the cult's chanting grew louder, filling the air with an otherworldly resonance. Alyssa desperately tried to escape, but the walls seemed to close in around her, suffocating her with a palpable sense of dread. Outside, the remaining friends watched in horror as the cabin seemed to pulse with an unholy light. They heard Alyssa's screams echoing through the night, but they were helpless to save her. The ground shook beneath them, and the trees surrounding the cabin contorted and twisted as if in pain. In a final, terrifying moment, the cabin exploded in a burst of blinding light, and the horrifying truth was revealed. The cult's ritual had succeeded, and the malevolent entity they had summoned now roamed free, thirsting for blood and vengeance. The friends who survived that night were forever scared, their lives haunted by the memories of that horrifying Friday the 13th. And as the years passed, the town of Blackwood became a ghost town, its streets empty and its buildings crumbling into decay, a chilling reminder of the unspeakable evil that had once been unleashed upon the world. Years after the horrifying events of that fateful Friday the 13th, Blackwood remained a place of dread, its dark history etched into the very fabric of the town. A thick fog perpetually shrouded the area, making it seem as if the town was suspended in a perpetual nightmare. Those brave enough to venture near would sometimes hear whispers carried by the wind, ghostly echoes of the past that warned of the malevolent entity's presence. One stormy night, a group of paranormal investigators arrived in Blackwood, drawn by the town's infamous reputation. Determined to unravel the mysteries that had plagued the town for decades, they set up their equipment in the decaying remnants of the Voorhees cabin, unaware of the horrors that awaited them. As they delved deeper into the cabin's secrets, the investigators discovered an ancient tome hidden among the ruins. The tome contained dark incantations and forbidden rituals, each page imbued with an ominous power. Unbeknownst to them, their curiosity had rekindled the malevolent force that had once been unleashed upon Blackwood. With each incantation they deciphered, the entity grew stronger, its thirst for blood unquenchable. Shadows twisted and writhed around the investigators, and the air grew heavy with an overwhelming sense of dread. The very ground beneath the cabin trembled as the entity, now free once more, sought out new victims to satiate its hunger. In a terrifying twist, the malevolent force manifested itself in multiple forms, each more horrifying than the last. Bloody apparitions appeared, their bodies mutilated and contorted in grotesque ways, their eyes hollow voids of endless darkness. The investigators found themselves trapped in a nightmarish reality, unable to escape the relentless onslaught of the vengeful spirits. One by one, the investigators succumbed to the malevolent force, their screams echoing through the woods as they were torn apart by unseen hands. Their blood stained the walls of the cabin, adding to the macabre legacy of Voorhees' wrath. The town of Blackwood seemed to pulsate with an evil energy, as if the very ground was tainted by the horrors that had taken place. The few who managed to escape the cabin ran through the mist-filled streets, their terrified cries mingling with the anguished wails of the spirits. But there was no escape from the relentless pursuit of the malevolent entity. It seeped into every corner of the town, its presence palpable in the chilling breeze that swept through the deserted streets. Blackwood had become a cursed land, a place where the boundaries between the living and the dead blurred, and the echoes of agony reverberated through the night. The malevolent force, now more powerful than ever, continued its reign of terror, waiting for the next unsuspecting souls to cross its path, ensuring that the horror of Friday the 13th would live on, an eternal nightmare etched into the annals of the town's grisly history. In the midst of the malevolent entity's reign of terror, a lone survivor named Karen found herself desperately searching for a way to put an end to the nightmare that had befallen Blackwood. Armed with the ancient tome that had unwittingly unleashed the entity, she embarked on a perilous quest to reverse the dark rituals and banish the malevolent force once and for all. Karen delved deep into the town's history, uncovering long-forgotten secrets and deciphering cryptic clues left behind by those who had once fought against the entity. With each revelation, she grew more determined, her fear transforming into a fierce determination to save her town and its remaining inhabitants. As she performed a ritual under the blood moon, following the instructions meticulously written in the ancient tome, the ground beneath Blackwood trembled, the air crackled with energy, and the malevolent entity roared in defiance, its grip on the town tightening. But Karen persisted, her unwavering resolve bolstered by the spirits of the town's past victims, whose voices whispered encouragement in her ears. In a blinding flash of light, the entity was pulled back into the depths of the abyss from which it had come, the walls of the cabin collapsing in on themselves with a deafening roar. The town of Blackwood fell silent, the malevolent force banished, and the curse that had plagued the town for so long lifted. Days turned into weeks, and the fog that had once enshrouded Blackwood dissipated, revealing a town reborn. The sun broke through the clouds, casting a warm, golden light upon the streets that had been soaked in blood. The remaining inhabitants emerged from their homes, their eyes filled with both relief and disbelief. Blackwood had been spared from the clutches of the malevolent entity. However, as the townsfolk cautiously ventured back into their daily lives, Karen discovered one final shocking truth. The ancient tome, the source of their salvation, bore a chilling inscription: "Beware the cost of salvation." As weeks passed, the survivors began to notice subtle changes within themselves. A newfound strength coursed through their veins, but it came at a price. Their eyes took on a haunted glint, and whispers echoed in their minds, remnants of the malevolent entity's influence. Each time they looked into a mirror, they caught glimpses of their former selves, their faces contorted in expressions of agony and despair. In a horrifying realization, Karen understood the true cost of banishing the entity. The town's survivors had become vessels, imbued with fragments of the malevolent force they had fought so hard to defeat. The entity had been vanquished, but its essence now lived on within them, an eternal reminder of the horrors they had endured. And so, Blackwood's inhabitants faced an unsettling future, their lives forever intertwined with the malevolent entity they had once battled. The town was saved, but at what price? The chilling truth lingered in the air, leaving the survivors to grapple with the shocking revelation that their victory had come at the cost of their very souls. In the weeks that followed the banishment of the malevolent entity, the survivors of Blackwood struggled to come to terms with the darkness that now resided within them. The once close community was marred by paranoia and fear, as the remnants of the entity whispered in their minds, sowing discord and suspicion. Karen, burdened by the knowledge of the entity's lingering presence, became determined to find a way to free her friends and neighbors from the grasp of the malevolent force. Night after night, she pored over ancient texts and arcane rituals, searching for a solution to the curse that had befallen them. One fateful night, driven by desperation, Karen attempted a dangerous ritual she believed might sever the connection between the survivors and the entity. As she chanted the incantations and lit the candles, the very air in the room seemed to grow thick with malevolence. Unbeknownst to her, the entity, weakened but not defeated, fought back with all its remaining strength. In a blinding surge of dark energy, the ritual backfired. The walls of Karen's home trembled, and the ground beneath her cracked open, swallowing her whole. Her screams echoed through the night, drowned out by the malevolent laughter of the entity. The next morning, the town awoke to find Karen's home reduced to rubble, the ground around it scarred and barren. Her disappearance sent shockwaves through Blackwood, leaving the survivors in a state of grief-stricken horror. The entity had claimed its final victim, exacting its revenge for its temporary banishment. As the town mourned the loss of Karen, they felt a strange sense of relief. The whispers in their minds grew quieter, the darkness that had clouded their thoughts lifting ever so slightly. But the survivors knew deep down that the entity's influence would never truly fade. In the years that followed, Blackwood became a place of somber reflection. The survivors lived out their lives haunted by the memories of that dreadful Friday the 13th and the courageous young woman who had sacrificed herself to save them. The town, once vibrant and full of life, now stood as a grim reminder of the horrors that could befall even the most innocent of places. And so, Blackwood's story became a cautionary tale, a chilling reminder of the consequences of meddling with forces beyond human understanding. The town's fate served as a warning to all who heard the tale, a reminder that some evils could never be fully vanquished, and that sometimes the cost of victory was far too high. If you liked our stories, please click the like button, comment, and click on the subscribe button so you will be notified of all of our new stories.